What's up, everybody? Happy Friday. Welcome to the CanesInSight Daily Podcast, powered by Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. The portal is closed. It's been a whirlwind. We've been talking portal every single day. Probably got a few more portal episodes queued up, including possibly some commitment videos, which we'll give to you right away once those commitments are made, if they're going to the good guys. But the portal's closed. A lot of rumors, a lot of thoughts about people exiting, entering, and ultimately the dust is settled. And we can talk about who's left and who's still on the board for the Hurricanes, who's out the door, who's still on the board. We'll be talking about all of that here on the CanesInsight Daily Podcast. Also want to give a shout out to my buddies Anijar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Their doors never close, always open. 1-800-747-3733, 1-800-747-FREE. If you or someone you care about has been injured in an accident, take back control of your life with Anijar and Levine. So again, a lot of rumors as the group chats are blowing up with big names leaving in the portal. I had not heard a lot of it. Doesn't mean it wasn't going to happen. There's a lot of murmurings that happen outside of what people know. But ultimately, it looks like it was mostly expected names leaving the portal, at least from what I understand. So bring in Peter Reese, fresh off the St. Thomas Apostle Golf Tournament. How'd you play today, man?
Every time you can step on the golf course, it's a blessing, man. So swung it well. You know how it is. Some good swings, some bad swings, but I had a good time out there.
What was the score? I mean, you're going to get...
Well, you play a best ball tournament. It's not, you don't really play your own ball. So I can't say I have my own score from today, but if anyone in the CanesInsight community wants to tee it up with me in South Florida, let me know. Hit me up in the DMs, man. I'm always down.
What a life. What a life for Peter. So, again, we heard the rumors. Pete, you were in the group chats with me. A lot of people hitting us up. Is this big name leaving Miami? Is this big name leaving Miami? Again, I had not heard a lot of that. And ultimately, the names that left were names that, at least from what I understood, to be expected names for the University of Miami. Those are Ja'Carri Brown on the way to UCF, a great fit for him. I think that's exactly what he needed. A good program, a coach that knows how to use a running quarterback. That's part of that program's DNA. And I think it's very beneficial for Ja'Carri Brown to go to a program like UCF to play quarterback. Pete, what do you think about that fit?
Agreed. I think obviously with Gus Malzahn over there has an opportunity in an offense that prioritizes running the football with the quarterback and then setting things up downfield. I think that's a great fit for him. Obviously, they have KJ Jefferson this year, but I mean, the offense is, you talked about it, D. One of the issues with him here is that you're trying to get the backup quarterback, whoever it's going to be, and the rest of the offense ready. And if a Cam Ward were to go down, knock on wood, that doesn't happen, but the offense has to be as most similar to what you're running with him, and that just was not going to happen here at Miami. So you look at where he's going at UCF and KJ Jefferson, he's probably going to be the backup behind him. It's going to be a very similar offense for him as it is for KJ.
Yeah, so happy for him. Great fit. Javonte Citizen, again, expected to enter the portal, did enter the portal, just not all the way there yet from his injury. Doesn't mean he can't get there, but I think Miami's more in a win-now mode. A lot of young talent coming in that needs opportunities. So Javonte Citizen moves on. Still don't know his landing spot. Jonathan Dennis, another one, injury-plagued, injured his first year at Miami, hasn't been back. Does have some ability, but I don't think he had a role at Miami. Logan Sagapolo going to University of Washington. It's a really great landing spot for him. Be interested to see what kind of role he plays. I've heard different things. Chris Washington wasn't really playing. The kid signed by Manny's staff from Tennessee. He moves on. I don't know if he's going to go continue playing football or go somewhere small, but he hadn't really been playing or even at practice that I saw. Jared Harrison-Hunt, we talked about that one. A big loss in terms of someone who's going to contribute next year. Most of these names were not going to contribute next year. So the question is, can you upgrade Jared Harrison-Hunt onto SMU? Miami is in the mix for Simeon Barrow, who we'll be talking about on this podcast. Just got crystal ball to Miami. And I think he probably would be an upgrade over Jared Harrison-Hunt. We'll talk about that. But Harrison-Hunt on the way to SMU. Thomas Gore, another defensive tackle. Georgia State transfer. Pete, you talked about him yesterday. Moving on to who knows where, but moving on somewhere else. Marcellus Pulliam, linebacker. Again, we talked about his departure on one of the previous daily pods. in the portal. Jaden Wayne on the way to University of Washington, defensive end. Savion Riley. I think probably Georgia Tech might be the landing spot for him. A safety that was going to be in the rotation, but has slipped. Again, we talked about him on prior pods. And Demetrius Freeney, JUCO corner that really couldn't break the rotation. So all told, Pete, I mean, what's your takeaway from these departures?
Look, there's different reasons for each of these. I'm not one to say that every player that walks out the door, what was going to be, it's a minimal loss. I don't like to minimize these things, but at the same time, you and I both know that they're going out the door for certain reasons, and the staff has plans in place, right? So they've already replaced at certain positions. We see a Henry Parrish at running back going out the door, Damian Martinez coming in. And, we mentioned Citizen, but there's certain guys in terms of a Jordan Lyle, a Chris Johnson that you expect to step up. But across the board here, a Jared Harrison Hunt, a Thomas Gore, I don't want to say, look, we'll just replace these guys and move on. Understood that there are targets. You already mentioned a Simeon Barrow, who we will get to in depth again, as we mentioned on this podcast, who, if he comes in, would definitely be a big contributor on this defense. But the plans are in place, so we have to trust what the staff has in store here.
Yeah, and I think with Harrison Hunt, he's the name that was going to contribute next year. Savion Riley would be in the rotation, but probably not much. Marcellus Pulliam be more in the special teams. Jaden Wayne, I think, probably would have been back end of the rotation. So really the guy you got to replace who's giving you big minutes or big snaps is going to be Jared Harrison Hunt. And Miami received a crystal ball from Peter Nakos of On3 for the Miami Hurricanes. When Nakos speaks, everybody listens. He had this crystal ball to Simeon Barrow. I've been saying pretty much since our last meeting with him, with Barrow when he was on campus, that Miami was in a very good spot. Thomas Gore leaving, I thought, was very telling as far as where Miami was in this recruitment. Miami has wined and dined Barrow. They provide an opportunity to step right in where Harrison Hunt left. And I think Barrow versus Hunt, his experience, both guys were experienced, but Barrow was a team captain. I think just a grittier player, similar size, similar profile as far as being athletic, trying to get to the passer, being quick, more disruptive guys, 290 range. But I think Barrow was just a little more grit and toughness to his game, which is why he had bigger offers than Jared Harrison Hunt. So to me, that'd be an upgrade. But we'll see if that goes through. Again, you saw the Nakos crystal ball from On3. That lines up with what I've been hearing about the Barrow recruitment since he made his visit. So, Pete, I know you watched some of that Barrow film with me. I don't know if you had any thoughts on what he brings to the table.
You said it, the disruptive. I mean, look, we're not expecting him to go on and be a top 15, top 20 pick in the NFL draft because he's not the biggest defensive tackle. But what can you do at this college level, right? And he's a very explosive pass rusher. A lot of times with these smaller defensive linemen, if you can disrupt from the inside, they may not be the ones who finish the play. But when you have the edge rushers that you expect Miami to have with a Ruben Bain and a Mesidor, who you can probably move those guys around on pass rushing situations, you're going to have an Elijah Alston on the outside as well. And who knows, maybe a Tyler Barron who's still in play here, right? And some of these other guys, right? A guy like Barrow is probably going to have an opportunity to get a lot of one-on-one situations, which wasn't always the case at Michigan State. So excited about the potential of him if he does end up coming to Miami.
Yeah, and the other two names to watch in the portal as far as guys that are in there right now, and I think now this closed, these are the names really. Tyler Barron, who we've talked about on the podcast, defensive end from Tennessee, major stud, day one, day two type pick talent. Miami wants him pretty badly. Other schools are after him. That's going to be a sweepstakes, and Miami is firmly in the game. His girlfriend lives in Fort Lauderdale, and he had a great visit. He fits right into this rotation. JT, his resume speaks for itself. That's going to be an interesting recruitment. Miami really wants Tyler Barron to add to Simeon Barrow if they were able to land Simeon Barrow. Also, D'Angelo Pons, the corner out of James Madison, who we talked about on yesterday's show. The nickel corner could also play outside. That allows you to move Mish Powell to safety. So if you look at the guys that left that were actually going to play, Jared Harrison Hunt, Savion Riley, maybe Jaden Wayne, you really replace those guys with upgrades here in that you have Simeon Barrow replacing Hunt. You have Tyler Barron replacing Wayne and then some. And then Pons was a nickel corner, but he moves. He's that nickel. Mish Powell, the starting nickel, who was a safety for Washington last year, who was Miami's prize safety addition in the portal. He moves back to safety. So you upgrade there as well. Move everybody one spot down in the depth chart. So let's see if Miami can close with those names. That is the goal. And that would really put a nice finishing touch on this defensive portal class, which I think needed more work than the offensive side once you landed Damian Martinez. Real quick, I want to tell you about our friends at CanesWear. Inter Miami stuff is going wild today, Friday, and Saturday. You can save 20 to 50% off on Inter Miami apparel and headwear. You got other South Florida teams on sale as well at the store in Davie or intermiamiwear.com. So if you're a soccer fan, intermiamiwear.com. You get the best selection of Inter Miami stuff anywhere. Again, on sale, 20 to 50% off. Talking about the portal additions, but recruiting doesn't stop. And not only recruiting for the 2025 class, but also recruiting for the 2026 class. And I ordinarily wouldn't get too far deep into 2026, but the quarterback position is one that you wrap it up pretty early. If you recall, Luke Nickel, Miami's quarterback commit this year, was committed before signing day for the prior class. So these 26 quarterbacks are going to be coming off the board. And once they come off the board for one school, they're out. So it's a different kind of recruiting process, less decommitments, again, more, you really just take one usually in a class, at least from a big time standpoint. So you start those recruitments early and you watch them early. You say, who is Miami really zeroing in on? Diabell, I always screw it up. Raja Bell's son from American Heritage. He's certainly a prospect. I like him a lot, seeing him up close. Some other names, but a new name that's emerged. And it's a name that I heard when I was at spring practice talking to people. I heard this name mentioned as someone they really, really like. So this is not a brand new thing. This was a month ago. I heard this name, Tate Reynolds out of Arizona, 6'3", 195. He claims a 4.0 GPA and a 4.440. So you like those fours. Hopefully that's true. He's got the dyed blonde hair. He looks like, Dusty Rhodes or Ric Flair or Cody Rhodes, someone like that with the dye job that he has on the blonde hair. So professional wrestling as a baby face was in his future if he chooses, or he can be a heel too. It depends on his personality, but he's got the dyed blonde hair already. And he's Arizona State baseball commit, 9th grade on Perfect Game, which is the kind of the baseball recruiting high school service. He's got a 9th grade on there as an outfielder, a shortstop, which is very, very high. Arizona State is a traditional power in baseball. When you get to the football stats, they're a lot more, he's a lot more raw than some other quarterbacks. He was really only focused on football he only played football for a couple of years. He's only focusing on it now, heading into his junior and senior year. I think baseball is being left behind, but he completed 54% of his pass attempts, 1,800 yards, 11 touchdowns with 11 picks in 11 games. So that's not a good ratio. However, also rushed for 631 yards, 17 touchdowns. And this is, again, he's just one of his first years playing. I believe he didn't start till high school, really focused on baseball. Now, as I understand, he's going from being a more dual sport athlete to really focusing on football. So you hope to see a jump in his performance. He's got a ton of huge offers from teams like Washington, Tennessee, and other big programs. Miami is in on Tate Reynolds. Again, I told you they were talking about it when I was on campus about a few weeks ago. Shannon Dawson was there in person to evaluate Reynolds. So that should be a big sign. And you're seeing the highlights here. Pete, what are you seeing with Tate Reynolds and what he's doing athletically?
Well, the quarterback position these days, D, you're betting on physical traits, right? And of course, you said it. He's not a guy who's focused on football. Looks like he's going to be fully making that transition now. But you see him running away. I mean, I don't know what level of competition this is in Arizona, but there's good ball out there. And we've seen quarterbacks come out of this area, in recent years. Spencer Rattler, right off the top of my head. And he was a guy who was also a dual sport athlete, right? But again, you mentioned the running stats, 17 touchdowns on the ground is nothing to scoff at, right? So, I mean, to me, he's a guy who, we're talking about someone who's a couple years away, right? This isn't a guy who you need to step on campus next year and be the guy, right, D? So exciting talent. You see his size, right? And as he continues to grow as a quarterback, I think that he'll be a national recruit for sure.
Brother played linebacker for Utah. And it's, to me, what's interesting about this one, again, he's picking up some big offers. TCU, another one, but he's on the upswing. He's a 3-star rated right now, despite having some good offers. Number 27 quarterback. I think that'll probably go up as his production goes up, assuming it does. But I went back and checked. He had not started playing football until high school. So brand new to him, really was focused on baseball. He was committed to Arizona State, I think, before he even started playing football. So to play baseball. So that's how far along he is as a baseball prospect. But he's telling people football is his number one. That's also something I heard in spring when I was talking to people. I'm like, is this guy just a baseball player that you're messing around with? And they said, no, he wants to play football. At least that's the word from them. Obviously, Shannon Dawson. It's funny, Shannon Dawson didn't visit him for spring football. Shannon Dawson visited him for a baseball game. So Shannon Dawson was in the stands of one of his baseball games just to see the athlete. And we've had a couple podcasts ago going through the NFL draft and some of the trends you see. I am a huge believer in multi-sport athletes in general, but I am an extra believer when it comes to the quarterback position. Guys that train all year round and are not playing other sports are learning to be trained. They're not learning how to compete. They're not learning how to move. They're not learning how to be a teammate. They're just out there throwing routes on air. And to me, that is not what makes great quarterbacks. Justin Herbert was playing everything, 3-star. Pat Mahomes playing everything, 3-star. Joe Burrow, stud basketball player, borderline 4-star. These are the athletes that you want at the position, because they get better and better once they focus only on one sport, and they already know how to compete. They already know how to use their bodies in different ways. Now, watching Tate Reynolds highlights, one thing that you see needs work on top of just the stats is he's not someone who you see scanning the field, right, and being very much of a field general and spreading the ball. He's locked in. The arm looks outstanding and the running looks great. So we'll see how that develops. But I think the competitive edge, particularly in middle infield, he's not a pitcher, right? So middle infield, he has to react quick. He's got to make quick movements. He's got to throw off platform a lot. He's not just repeating the same delivery. All those things I think will help him in his development as an athlete and as a football player and a quarterback.
I'm with you, D, but listen, you see it here. He's scooting and he's breaking away from defenders, but you see the arm talent, and you see he doesn't need much room, right? So that he is making some off-platform throws, but when he's able to set his feet and sit there in the pocket, it's a quick release. So he's an intriguing talent for sure.
Florida State offer, Arizona, which is the local schools, offered him. Arizona quarterbacks, you mentioned Spencer Rattler, Brock Purdy, another one that is having a lot of success from the Arizona area. To be specific, Tate Reynolds is from Queen Creek, Arizona. I know we have a lot of Arizona fans listen to the podcast and also on the website. So Arizona is a great area, Pete. I know that's like your home away from home, right? So it's
Listen,
great.
We talk about golf. That's, to me, the best golf out here, man.
Yeah, so I don't know if Shannon Dawson got in a quick 9 or if he was just there for the quarterback. But I think this is an interesting offer. Again, Miami's done a lot of quarterbacks, but 26 is – I personally, I monitor 26. I don't pay too much attention because my wife will divorce me. However, quarterback's the one position you want to pay attention, because that one's going to get done early, and usually it's done. And I've been a big advocate. I fought with people on the board. Shout out to Relly Rel and some of the other guys, T-Rick, I go back and forth with on the message boards. Wasting whole Sundays just going back with these super long detailed posts about quarterback philosophy, recruiting philosophy. And I am of the belief in the NIL era, spending money on a big-time top 10 quarterback, meaning top 10 ranked quarterback in the country, it's too risky. Those guys don't more chance of them leaving or being a bust or both than them succeeding for your school. That's becoming increasingly rare. So you see the draft, you saw Jaden Daniels was a big-time recruit. Bo Nix was a big-time recruit. Spencer Rattler was a big-time recruit. Those guys, Caleb Williams, those guys were all highly rated guys. But when you look at their signing profile, the logo next to their face is different than the one that they're getting drafted for. So it's hard to keep those guys. And to me, I would spend a lot of money on a transfer quarterback like a Cam Ward, where you know exactly what you're going to get. He's going to come, he's going to play, he's going to be good. You have film on him. And then maybe either try to get these highly rated, super talented quarterbacks on their second school, kind of like what Georgia did with Jaden Rashada, or focus on these high upside 3-star multi-sport athletes, 4-star, not the top 10 guys that are multi-sport guys. Carson Beck was a low 4-star baseball player. You've seen him blossom later in his Georgia career. Guys like that who are going to blow up and really have the upside to improve. And if they don't improve, get another portal guy. But you're at least getting a high school kid that has a chance to be special, and the portal serves as a high floor for your quarterback recruiting. That's at least my thought on how to spend money in the quarterback market in 2024.
And if Cam Ward does what we expect him to do this year, D, then it's going to make recruiting that position very easy for Shannon Dawson and Mario Cristobal moving forward.
It is a litmus test for sure, but I think all the criticism of Mario being a quarterback killer, if Cam Ward goes out and lifts his stock, Pete, you mentioned he's probably a day 3 pick in this draft. If he goes out and becomes a day 2, day 1 pick, which is possible, you just saw it with Jaden Daniels almost to the T. Now we're talking about Mario as a QB resurrector, not because he's some sort of guru, but because he has a very good offensive line and great players around the quarterback. I don't think that offensive line is going to get any worse. I don't think the players around are going to get any worse. So if you're a transfer quarterback, you can come in and have those weapons. Or if you're a young guy like a Tate Reynolds, you can develop. And then by the time you're ready to roll, you have a beautiful offensive line, you got skill position, and you could really flourish. That's the pitch. We'll see if it works, but very interesting prospect here with Tate Reynolds. I'm sure that, JD Arteaga and those guys had their eyes big on this dude too, because he looks the part as a shortstop, man. He's a big, big boy. Miami baseball does not have kids that look like this right now.
That's for sure. And Mario and staff have done a great job so far on the portal. Looking to close it out here, D. Great insight as always. Keep it locked on CanesInsight.com. Remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel. Any last words here, D?
CanesConnection.com. Promo code CIS 20% off. Let's keep winning these recruiting battles. And look, maybe you might see me and Pete in the same clothes recording some commitment videos.
And I'm not wearing that Jimmy Butler shirt, especially after the last few weeks.
Shout out to Heat Subculture, the Jimmy Butler, Jimmy Buffett shirt, a classic. I've been wearing a bunch of his stuff. But anyways, you might see this shirt again because Miami is on the prowl for some commitments from the portal. So stay tuned. Go Canes and have a great weekend, everybody.
Go Canes.